There's a article that was published by some sort of a news source, or maybe it was Business Insider, not quite sure, but it was talking about how when people have flex PTO plans, they are less likely to actually take time off. And then in turn, what they wind up doing is, instead of taking their time off, they look for sort of sneaky ways to maybe play hooky from work or something like that. And the article went on to say that people are more likely to respect their manager and take their time off in a honest and effective way if their manager also takes time off. So like if you are a manager of people and you take time off and you let your team know it's okay for them to take time off too, they're more likely to be happy. They're more likely to, not play hooky while they're at work. They're more likely to essentially be positive in the workplace and have a healthier work-life balance if their manager also has a healthy work-life balance. Whereas at the same time, if people feel like their manager is a workaholic, never takes any time off, then they also feel like they have to be a workaholic and never take any time off. Then they start to get bitter because they feel like their time is not respected, and then they start saying, oh well, like maybe I could like skip work for a day and not tell anybody, and or I could work from home and not tell anybody, or something of that general nature. And so where I'm going with this is that we tend to be self-conscious about stuff. You think to yourself, well, what are people gonna think of me if I do this or that? And then we do what we do or don't do what we do through the lens of what we think other people are going to think of us. Like maybe you don't request time off because you're afraid that your boss is going to judge you for it. And then instead of taking time off, you wind up just burning out from overwork. And then you wind up, maybe taking time off because it's affected your mental health down the road, or maybe you take time off eventually, but you just call off or skip work or something, like we have this tendency to just, we try to impress other people, and then it all catches up at some point. And you're better off to just be honest on the front side. Like it could be that you don't want to offend somebody, so you ignore bad performance in an employee. So you don't say anything. Or somebody says something that's inappropriate or it's disrespectful, you don't say anything. And eventually it all kind of simmers and it percolates, and then it boils over, and then like maybe somebody gets fired because of some kind of gross misconduct. And it didn't have to be like that. It could have been addressed on the front side. It could have been handled honestly and straightforwardly right when it happened, in the moment. You see something, you say something, you address it. But we tend not to want to be direct, Like we don't want to tell the truth just the way it is, unfiltered, straight up. So we tell these little lies. Or we just avoid facing something, kick the can down the road a little bit further. Because with my boss the other day, and we're driving along, he's talking to another one of his coworkers. And they're talking about different things related to the business. It's not really anything particularly important, really just chatting for, maybe 15 minutes. And then he says to her, he says, oh, I have another call coming in. I got to go because I got this call And, I'll talk at you when I get a chance, just super busy right now. And then the call ends. And the truth is, there wasn't any other person on the line. Like, he just got tired of talking to this person. And in that moment, for him, it was easier to just tell a little lie and say, oh my goodness, I got another call coming in. It was easier to do that than it was to just say, okay, I will talk to you later. I'm going to go now. So, like, why? Like, in that moment, it was not a big deal. I thought that was fascinating because there was absolutely no motive or pressure there to tell a lie. Absolutely no reason, because he totally could have just said, all right, that sounds good. I'm going to go now. It was nice talking. Catch up with you later. But instead of that, he chose to tell a lie. Because it was easier psychologically for him to tell a lie than it was to tell the truth. Because if he told the truth, then he'd be implying that he was tired of the conversation. He wanted to move on. But if he lied about another call coming in, then he could send the signal that he wished the conversation could go on longer, but unfortunately, he wasn't able. See? So a subtle manipulation of a situation, and there's no reason for it other than psychologically being uncomfortable with telling the truth and worrying about what other people are going to think, to the point where it modifies or manipulates the outcome of personal actions. We have so many situations in our lives like this where we wind up doing things that are not really true to ourselves because we're thinking about social dynamics or how other people are going to see us or maybe judge us. And then we do things that just aren't really right. I was thinking the other day, like, I like to go for a walk around my neighborhood. So, like, I have these earbuds I like to wear, and they're cheap earbuds. Like, I paid $20 for them, I think. And then they stopped working right. And so I was like, well, shoot, I wanted to listen to something while I was walking around. So I guess I'll use my regular wired headphones and just plug the headphone into my phone while I'm out going for a walk. And then some part of me is like, I'm going to look stupid if I'm walking around and I've got this wired earbud like dangling out of one ear. And I thought, isn't that so weird and ridiculous even? Like, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. Like, maybe on some level I'll look stupid, but it doesn't make a difference because nobody's going to even care. It doesn't matter at all. And yet there's still that little bit of a sense of, but what if somebody thinks I look stupid, And these are the kinds of things, like, you want to wear a hat, but you think people are going to think you look stupid. So you just don't. Like it's little stuff like this. And we all have this, just a sense of self-consciousness, a sense of wanting to kind of conform to our vision of what we think other people may want us to do or something like that. But the truth is, it's very important to be true to yourself without seeing your life through the lens of other people. And that's really, really hard to do. Because usually, being social creatures, everything we do, we tend to look at through the lens of, well, what is this going to do? Is this going to potentially make me, more popular or less popular? Are people going to think better of me or worse? And then we go down the rabbit hole. And we don't tell the truth. We start to tell little white lies. Like, we look for ways to avoid people instead of telling people the truth. We look for opportunities to save face, to look good on the front side, while we hide in the shadows on the backside. You know, I saw a meme. It was about women ghosting people. It was like, said, like, it's so funny, basically, that women are going to be flirting with people in a text message until the guy says, you know, when can I see you, or do you want to meet up? And then suddenly they go silent. And it's funny because it's true. Like, that's not even an unusual thing. That's like the norm. And, you know, women are like that. A lot of times they are, because they would rather ghost somebody on a social media platform than to tell the truth, which is, okay, I'm not really interested. You know, like there's always this desire to do things that look good on the front side, so that you don't have to worry about any sense of judgment or any confrontation or anything uncomfortable. And then on the backside, you try to be true to whatever it is that is yourself. And that's really, really toxic. It's really toxic when you allow yourself to go down the path of being fake. Being fake because it's easier than telling the truth. And I really admire people who just kind of come out of whatever closet they are in and just be true to themselves and show themselves for who they are. You know, like, I went to a few gaming and anime conventions. Like, I went to Seattle for one. I was down in Missoula for one. And, you know, I don't ever really dress up, but I see these people who are, and I think it's admirable. I think it's cool, because you see these people and they're just, you know, they're dressed up as a character that they like. And whether they're afraid of people judging them or not, I don't know. But they have made the decision that they'd rather represent something that they think is cool, even if that might make other people judge them. They'd rather do that than to be inauthentic. And I think we lose a lot of ourselves when we're inauthentic, when we put on a show, and we lose the capacity to have absolute candor, to just tell the truth exactly as it is, to be ourselves exactly as we feel comfortable being. And, you know, to have that rule that we will harm no one, and we will be kind, and we will be gentle, but we will also be true to ourselves. To do what we wish, to harm no one, but to do as we wish. And I think if we lived our lives by that standard, to say, you know, I will never do harm to a person, and I will always be also true to myself, we would have better lives by a long shot if we could do that. Just to tell the truth. You know, it's not easy. It's very hard. It's hard to tell the truth. It's hard to be true to yourself. It's hard to live your life unfiltered, without hiding behind the walls of social media and all of the little conveniences that we have in place to give us a way to look good without doing good. So wherever you find yourself, always ask yourself, am I being authentic? Am I being true to myself? And if you're not, then start finding ways to break down some of those walls. And it's good to have boundaries, but don't make the mistake of confusing boundaries for walls. Because if you live your life in some sort of a high castle that you've designed with the intention that you're never going to have to be uncomfortable, you're never going to have to come out of your comfort zone, that's not boundaries. That's just putting you in a prison. And quite often, being disingenuous to other people, being inauthentic, in the end, you might think you're doing it for yourself because it's easier. But in the end, you really are, you're really only harming yourself. You know, like I saw a cartoon, and it showed two men climbing this hill, like stick figures climbing this hill. And one of them took the steep path, and he winds up on top of the mountain. And then the other one takes this easy path down a slide, and then he winds up at the bottom of the cliff, and he's stuck trying to climb up this impossibly steep cliff face, and he can't get up because he took the easy path down while the other guy was taking the hard path up, and the hard path up gave him the opportunity to reach the summit, while the easy path down guaranteed he would be so far down at the bottom in the hole he'd never be able to get up. And it's that way when we avoid the truth, when we avoid being authentic, when we kind of put on a mask and we hide instead of coming out and being true to ourselves and being true to other people. At some point, we just live a life that's a lie. And as long as you're doing that, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to do good in the world. But if you break out of that shell and you just tell the truth, then suddenly things start to be a lot better. And you wind up being a lot more useful in everything you do. Because you'd be surprised how much people respect and value honest feedback. You know, I always think about in HR how often it is you see people in HR and they will basically tell lies to people. It's all this circular HR political talk where somebody will walk in and they have something to say and HR has something to say, and the official statement is so filled with political mumbo jumbo that it all sounds good, but at the end, when you unpack it all, nothing was actually said. And that infuriates people because they walk away feeling like they were heard, feeling like they were given a response. But the truth is, all they were doing, you know, they were given this patronizing response that was all a bunch of nothing. And we live in a world like that. Like there's all kinds of fancy advertisements out telling you what you want to hear, but it's a wall of words that all adds up to basically absolutely none of what was promised on the front side. You know, you ever see a thing where it says something is free and then you look at all of the fine print, like you go to the cell phone store, they say, oh, we'll give you a free phone. And somehow it's free until you sign up for it. And then after you sign up for it, the next month it's $300 a month, you know? And we just get used to this, that everything's a lie. And so you can't really take anything or anybody seriously. And then you start to think, well, everyone else treats me like this, so I guess I might as well treat people like this too. Just play the game, you know? And then you sell out too. And it just becomes a way of life. One lie fades into another. And, you know, you get so deep down in the hole you can't get back out sometimes. So always tell the truth. Let people see who you are. Let people see what your positions are. Don't pretend you agree with people when you don't. Don't pretend you're okay with something when you're not. Don't act like you are something that you're not just because you think it's going to get you ahead. Don't spend so much time worrying about what other people think that their voices wind up being louder than your own inner voice. Wherever you find yourself, best of luck on your journey. First and above all, always try to be true to yourself. Until next time, thank you for watching.